Given the auto industry's infatuation with SUVs, the hot hatch segment is doing surprisingly well. Hyundai no longer sells the Veloster N, but they still do have the Elantra N. Honda has the Civic Type R, Volkswagen has the Golf GTI and Golf R, and now Toyota is entering the segment with this, the GR Corolla. GR stands for Gazoo Racing, which is Toyota's performance division, and is responsible for the GR Supra and GR86. This GR Corolla is the first GR vehicle that has a non-GR counterpart in Toyota's lineup in the US. So how well has GR taken Toyota's compact hatchback and turned it into a sporty vehicle? Pretty well, I would say. GR has fitted their Corolla with a 1.6-liter turbocharged 3-cylinder that makes 300 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque. That's really impressive from a 3-cylinder and is plenty of power for this Corolla. Morris likes the GR Corolla as well. But GR didn't just add more power. This car has what Toyota is calling a GR4 all-wheel drive system, and the driver gets to customize the power distribution of the all-wheel drive system with this dial. When you turn the car on, it starts out 60-40, 60% of the power to the front wheels, 40% to the rear wheels. But if I am to turn this dial to the right, that changes it to 30-70, so 30% of the power to the front wheels, 70% to the rear wheels. That'll make it a lot more fun and help with drifting. The GR Corolla is also only available with a 6-speed manual transmission. The GR Corolla, like all Corolla hatchbacks, has a shorter wheelbase than a Corolla sedan, which means rear seat legroom is a little tight. I'm 6'2", and sitting behind my ideal driving position, my knees are right up against the seat in front of me, and my feet do fit underneath, but it is just pretty cramped back here. I can sit upright though without my head touching the top of the roof, which is impressive, and thanks to this car's boxy, true hatchback shape, that makes that possible, but again, just not a lot of space for me. Now, the biggest visual cue that Corolla hatchback that's driving past you is indeed a GR Corolla, other than the GR badges and the widened stance, is this triple exhaust system, which looks really cool, but a 1.6-liter 3-cylinder is still a 1.6-liter 3-cylinder. All right, driving the Toyota GR Corolla. Now, the first thing I noticed when driving this car, and forget for a moment that this is a hot hatch, is just that how well-rounded of a vehicle this is. These seats are very comfortable. This car has all-wheel drive. It has 300 horsepower, so it's not underpowered. It has a 6-speed manual transmission, so you're gonna have fun while you drive it. It's got wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's got heated seats, a heated steering wheel, a 12.3-inch virtual instrument cluster, which is really high quality and shows everything you would want it to show. I've been averaging 26.5 miles per gallon, which isn't great, but it's better than some compact hatchbacks, Mazda 3 hatch, that I've driven in the past. And it's got automatic climate controls, wireless charging pad, great speakers. Like, it's just a really good car. And this is the base Toyota GR Corolla core, so it gets nicer from here. You can get leather seats, some more features, all of that. But even in this core trim level, which does still cost $40,000, so it's not cheap, but you're still gonna get a really nice car. And then you can start to realize how much fun this car is to drive. Again, 6-speed manual transmission, you're gonna have a blast. If you want, there's automatic rev matching. You get to change the power distribution of the all-wheel drive system, which is crazy. There's drive modes. I haven't noticed a huge difference in the drive modes, but let's go now into sport. We are in 30-70, 30% of the power to the front wheels, 70% to the rear wheels. And all right, driving dynamics. So the suspension is pretty stiff, as you would expect in this like aggressive Corolla, but it's not unbearably stiff. You can still live with this car around town. I think it is actually a little softer sprung than something like a Honda Civic Type R. The steering is pretty quick. I think there's a little less feel in it than something like a Civic Type R. You can feel the road, but it's just a little muted. It's a little duller, but in sport mode, it is pretty quick. Again, comparing this to the Civic Type R, I think the chassis on the Civic Type R, because the chassis on the Civic in general is just so great. It's so dynamic. It's so athletic. And this Corolla chassis just doesn't deliver as well the athletic feel. They've stiffened it. It's definitely more dynamic than a regular non-GR Corolla chassis, but it doesn't have that edge that the Civic Type R does, and that the Civic does in general. That car, I think, overall just feels a little more aggressive. But I think that lends itself to this car just being a little softer than the Civic Type R or than a Hyundai Elantra N. This car, because like these seats, while they are very well bolstered, they're not as aggressive as the bucket seats you get in the Civic Type R. And the suspension, while it's stiff, it's not like unbearable as it kind of is in the Civic Type R. It's not unbearable, but I took that car on like a 2-hour road trip from LA to San Diego. And if you've ever driven on the freeways between LA and San Diego, they're not great. And that was a little hard on the back in that vehicle. But this car, it's a little softer. These seats are more comfortable. It's a very livable cabin, although I can't for the life of me figure out why it doesn't have any storage in the center console or a center armrest. And this is like the only car I've ever driven that doesn't have a center armrest. There's just nothing here and then a tray. So interior storage is limited, and that's really the only area where it doesn't have great livability, is just the interior storage. But other than that, this car is super, like, again, well-rounded, easy to live with. But then when you get to the high revs, that was uphill too, it's still pretty fast and you can have a really good time with this car. But I think the fact that this car is a little softer than the Civic Type R is more true to the ethos of a hot hatch. Hot hatches are supposed to be attainable vehicles. It's debatable whether $40,000 is attainable, but attainable vehicles that you can have a blast in, but also no problem daily driving. I don't think there is a problem daily driving a Honda Civic Type R or a Hyundai Elantra N, but this vehicle is definitely more comfortable than those vehicles, and I would choose this vehicle as a daily driver over a Type R or an Elantra N. The seats are comfortable, the suspension is softer, it's just more livable. So at being a car and being something that you're gonna actually live with, I think the GR Corolla wins out over the Type R and the Elantra N. But if you're looking for a second car or a track car, those cars do feel a little more aggressive, a little more special than this vehicle. Again, this is the base model, so there are models above this that get a little more aggressive design language and more features. So those might feel a little more special than this vehicle. But this kind of just feels like a really good hatchback. And that's not an insult, even though that might sound like an insult. That's not supposed to be an insult. That just means like Toyota made a really good car here. Everything about it, you know, it's a classic Toyota move. It's just a solid vehicle. It just doesn't feel quite as special as its competition. But I think in third gear especially, this car really starts to come alive at like 4,500 RPM. It does push you into the back of your seat, and because it's really well insulated in here, actually, it's pretty quiet. It does feel very premium. I'm actually, you can speed quite easily in this car because you don't realize how fast you're going. It's really easy to go quite fast. And actually, I'm really impressed. This steering does get nice and heavy in sport mode. That is, I think, the most noticeable difference between the modes is the weight of the steering. It does feel, it is a good solid weight to it in sport mode. And then once you get up to highway speeds or faster, the car is super composed. It handles high speeds really well. It remains super planted. And although it's not quite as dynamic in corners, it still handles everything really well. It doesn't lean too much. It just doesn't feel quite as German, I would say, as a Civic Type R does. So that's the Toyota GR Corolla Core. I'm blown away by how well-rounded of a vehicle it is. It's genuinely really easy to live with, which I wasn't necessarily expecting from a hot hatch. And while it is slightly less aggressive than the competition from Hyundai and Honda, because it is easier to live with, I think it fits into the ethos of the hot hatch a little better. And at $40,000, this still offers plenty of power and plenty of features, and it's cheaper than a Honda Civic Type R or a Volkswagen Golf R. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.